The movie begins with 4 children writing their dreams in a book until the scene takes us to 8 years in the future, where the 4 children grow into teenagers and remain friends until the day of high school graduation. All of them have been accepted into colleges: Andy at Dartmouth, Nora at Harvard, Lionel or Lion at MIT, and Spice at Stanford. When they were at the beginning of summer vacation immediately after high school graduation, Andy regretfully stated that they were not invited to the graduation party or any parties while in high school, because the 4 of them were nerdy students and not very popular in high school. While the 4 of them work part-time jobs before college, Andy works as a tennis instructor and has a pen pal on the internet, and a woman he has a crush on in India who he hopes to visit in the summer for $2,000, although his friends doubt that she is real. Nora is a science researcher on fish and has a crush on her older Australian lab partner Erland. Lion is an MMA instructor for children, and Spice works as a cook in a restaurant. One day, Lion is invited by a student's cousin's older brother to a house party at The Point, a very exclusive housing community. As Lion tells his 3 best friends, the party will be used by the group to experience everything they've wanted to during their high school years. Andy wants to have a sexual experience before his online girlfriend visits. Lion wants to experiment with drugs. Nora wants to experience having a girlfriend. And Spice wants to be liberated or climax using a woman's hand. Although their desires are somewhat eccentric, they seem happy when they are first invited to a party. The scene then switches as the group attends a party and is mesmerized by the mansions that line the estate. The group also quickly gains popularity for their various talents, such as Andy, who is good at catching food with his mouth, or Lion, who teaches Tai Chi while drunk. It is also at the party that Andy gets the experience he really wants: making love, when a beautiful female partygoer seems fascinated by Andy's talent and wants to use Andy's mouth to catch something else. Meanwhile, Spice, who manages to mesmerize a beautiful girl, is unable to release his virginity because he is always impatient for the woman's hand to move towards his banana. Meanwhile, Nora seems to be meeting with her older lab partner, Erland. They seem to make out, kiss, and promise to meet again at the weekend. The next day, the group reconvened and recounted their experiences, but Andy seemed disapproving when he heard that Nora was dating Erland, not because of anything, but because the 2 of them were so far apart in age. Meanwhile, Space seemed disappointed that he hadn't succeeded in doing what he wanted, but he also said that they were invited back to 2 parties by rich girls, and that made them happy again. The scene then switches to Andy coaching tennis to rich women. An older woman named Gabby wants Andy to teach her private lessons, but the private lessons are not what Andy imagined. When Andy arrives at Gabby's house, he is immediately pounced on and fucked by Gabby on the bed. And who would have thought Andy would get a hefty fee of $150 per hour? During their 3-hour private lessons, Andy and Gabby make love 5 times and really enjoy it. The scene changes again as the group arrives at a party, and Andy clearly expresses his jealousy of Nora and Erland to Space. But Andy also explains that he is now teaching private lessons to rich women and sleeping with them. Space is very jealous of this, but advises Andy to be careful and always wear protection. After the party, Andy goes back to his daily life of teaching rich women tennis. But because of the private lessons the other day, Gabby tells her other colleagues about it, and Andy soon finds himself sleeping with most of his clients, all of whom are married and live at The Point. Apparently, Andy is doing it for the money he will give to his Indian online lover. Now the group was seen playing mini-golf and met their high school friends Conch and Rock, who greeted them with ridicule. After Conch and Rock left, Andy expressed his thoughts to Nora directly about Andy, who did not agree with Nora dating Erland. Because at that time Nora was 18 years old and Erland was 30 years old. But Nora gets upset because she thinks Andy is meddling too much in her personal life. Nora then leaves first and waits in the car. Meanwhile, Space doesn't agree with Andy's way of thinking, considering that Andy slept with many women over 40 for money. They all become awkward while in the car without chatting and go straight to their respective homes. When Andy gets home, he calls his online girlfriend and sends $250 for Danya's trip to America. Meanwhile, Nora decides to go to sleep with Erland for the first time. The next day, while Andy is making out with Gabby in his private lessons, Andy is forced to flee without his clothes after Gabby's husband returns early, and unluckily, Andy is arrested by the police, although no charges are filed after Andy helps the arresting police officer with a suspicious mortgage purchase. However, these group exploits soon took a turn for the worse. Lion experiments with increasingly heavy drugs, suffers from peyote-induced hallucinations in front of the class, and is fired. Meanwhile, the senior tennis coach meets with Andy, revealing that they too have slept with Gabby, but they have done nothing wrong as Andy is currently doing. Their suspicions will get them caught too. They threaten to fire Andy if he doesn't stop his private lessons or go back to thrusting his torn buns at Gabby or the other students. But that didn't last long, as Andy was fired that very day after he was caught talking to the students at the venue, while Nora only found out that she was just a plaything for Erland, after Nora overheard Erland talking on the phone with a girl and wanting her to sleep in his bed, and that very day they both broke up, while Space didn't have much happen to him. After the dismissal, Andy received a message from one of his clients who would pay $1,000 for an hour. Andy, who was drunk at the time, then tried to meet the client, but he entered the wrong house and met Conch, who was babysitting. Conch revealed that no one in high school ever disliked Andy or his group, and regarding the party that he said Andy was never invited to, no one was invited. They just showed up because it was a party. Conch added that it was Andy and his group who stayed away. Conch then graciously invites Andy to the party at the end of the summer, and Andy and Conch become friends. Elsewhere, an alliance of husbands whose wives have slept with Andy are planning and figuring out who Andy is, to determine what steps they will take. At the same time, Andy and his group are discussing the party invitation from Conch. A while later, Andy's online lover, Danya, arrives in America. Andy, Lion, and Nora drive to pick up Danya, and upon arrival, Danya immediately kisses Andy. Andy and Danya check into the hotel, but suddenly Andy is overwhelmed with the urge to urinate. However, a burning sensation when urinating, which prompts him to leave Danya. Andy went to the clinic and was diagnosed with a yeast infection, but luckily Andy figured it out quickly. Andy was prescribed treatment for a week, during which he had to abstain from intercourse. The resulting lack of physical intimacy between Andy and Danya left the impression that Andy did not like Danya. The scene switches as the group plus Danya attend the end-of-summer party and are greeted excitedly by their former classmates. Since Andy and the group have just attended the party, Rock challenges Andy to wrestle as a form of acceptance. Meanwhile, Danya notices that Andy and Nora seem to have feelings for each other. Lion, who noticed Danya, approached her, and Danya explained that she had never been touched by Andy. Lion tries to comfort Danya and manages to make them make out in the corner. While Spice manages to get the girl to shake her banana, in return, Spice will also spoil the woman with her banana. The party suddenly turned tense when the alliance of husbands arrived there looking for Andy's whereabouts. A panicked Andy then confesses his love for Nora before she dies. But luckily, when Andy is beaten up, Lion arrives with his martial arts and manages to defeat the alliance of husbands single-handedly. Because of the commotion, 2 police officers arrive to break up the party, but one of them recognizes Andy, who previously helped with his mortgage application. The officers decided there was nothing to see, allowed the party to continue, and offered the group a ride home. Partygoers declared the group to be legends as they departed with the policemen. As the summer came to an end, the group sadly said goodbye while reflecting on the amazing summer. Lion and Danya, after a week-long passionate relationship, promised to meet up during the semester break, as Danya herself will be attending UCLA. While Nora professes her mutual love for Andy, and they kiss and hug passionately. They all then left for their respective colleges. Andy then joins the induction line at Dartmouth. Andy seems popular when he is called by one of the beautiful girls from the first party he attended, and confidently, Andy introduces himself to the other students in the induction line, and the movie ends.